If you're from the UK and grew up in the 1980s, there's a good chance that you played games on an 8-bit microcomputer. Well, the internet likes to remind everyone of the video game crash of 1983. The truth is that for us in the UK, it had no effect. None. There was no fallout and no tremors were felt, all the while the UK coding scene exploded, with the likes of Manchester's Ocean Software becoming one of the largest European game developers and publishers that decade. That's not to say that we didn't play consoles in Europe though, and I've no doubt that many of you watching this grew up on the system this video is dedicated to, the SEGA Master System. The Master System launched in the UK in August of 1987, and at that point I was just 8 years old. My first system wasn't a Sega though. It was the ZX Spectrum 128K Plus 2, which I got in 1989, a couple of years after the Master System hit store shelves. Back then, I didn't even know the Master System existed. Despite how popular it was in the UK and Europe, my entire circle of friends either had a Spectrum or a Commodore 64. We were totally wrapped up in the home computer scene, reading Crash magazine, talking about the latest cover demo tapes, upcoming games and what we'd be buying next. And I loved the Spectrum, no question. Games like Batman the Movie, Robocop, Chase HQ, Shadow Warriors and Treasure Island Dizzy were absolute favourites of mine. Sure, the games were limited in colour and took 5 minutes to load, but in terms of gameplay, they remain some of my fondest gaming memories. Only one friend at school had a NES, and while I enjoyed playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at his house, I never really found myself wanting one. The NES just didn't have a presence in my gaming life at that time. In fact, here's a confession, I only realised what the console was that I was playing back then years later. I had no idea it was even a Nintendo at the time. In the UK, our Nintendo craze was kickstarted by the Game Boy and Tetris. At least that's how it felt to me. Looking back now though, I can understand why my parents went for the Spectrum. The games were cheap, you could get tapes for as little as £1.99, and even the big box releases only cost £10 to £15. And if you waited a bit, you could scoop up bundles by Ocean or US Gold with 5 or 6 games for the same price. The Master System, on the other hand, must have looked expensive. Well, the console itself was slightly cheaper than the 128K by 1989, the games were still £30 to £40 each. That's triple the cost of a top-end Spectrum title. For a young family watching their money in 1980s Britain, the choice was probably easy. So here it is, my very first SEGA Master System. Not the redesigned SEGA Master System 2 released in 1990, no. This is the original model, and just look at it. The sharp angles, that red panel, the ports along the front, this thing oozes 80s Sega charm. It's just such a slick looking system, more like a streamlined piece of 80s hi-fi equipment, and makes the NES look incredibly cheap and bulky in comparison. And the best part, I got this for just 20 quid. From my mate and good friend of the channel, Tom Fum. Who else? Absolute legend. When he told me he had one spare, I had to take it. The photos looked okay, but when I opened the box, I was stunned. It was immaculate, a bit of dust, sure, but once I gave it a proper clean, it looked almost new. No discolouring, no cracks, a few age-related marks, but other than that, it looks in superb condition for its age, a pristine piece of Sega history. It even came with 2 official Sega controllers, the original RF cable and the official power supply. Everything you need to fire it up like it's 1987 all over again. Of course, being 2025 now, I'm not running it through an old CRT. I've got it plugged into my OSSC for the best experience on a modern display. For the games, I'm using an EverDrive-style cartridge, letting me explore the entire library without breaking the bank on boxed originals, although I do plan on picking up several of the more iconic titles to add to the rest of my Sega collection. I've got to say though, playing these games on real hardware with a proper Master System controller in hand, it just hits different. As much as I appreciate and acknowledge that emulation has its use, there's just something special about playing these games on the actual console. For me, the hardware has always been as much a part of the retro experience as the games themselves. And what really surprised me was just how good some of these games still are. Let me show you a few that stood out immediately. After playing the Mega Drive version, I wasn't expecting an 8-bit Sonic to be this good, but wow. This isn't a watered down port either, it's a completely different game. Different levels, different music, different stages and different bosses make it a unique experience in its own right. This would have blown my mind had I played it as a kid. This one blew me away. It's brutal and I mean that in the best way. The Mega Drive version may be the premier experience, but the 8-bit version is nothing short of incredible. With large, detailed sprites and fluid gameplay, it captures the mood and tone of Frank Miller's graphic novel perfectly. Robocop vs the Terminator feels like a proper 16-bit title jammed into 8-bit hardware. An absolute technical showcase. I'd played R-Type on the Spectrum and the Commodore Amiga down the years, but the Master System port? Unreal. It's fast, it's smooth, and it's incredibly faithful to the arcade version, retaining the iconic massive bosses, complex stages, and swarms of enemies. Easily one of the best arcade shooters on an 8-bit console. Now, R-Type never came to the Mega Drive, making this one a unique experience on Master System, although the Robo-Z, aka Andrea Balderaghi, is bringing his own project, Mega R-Type, to Sega's 16-bit system. Once again, Sega managed to cram a far more advanced title into their 8-bit system, and Shinobi looks and plays great on Master System. It's a more forgiving experience on this console, removing the one-hit kills and replacing it with a life gauge, but this is no watered down experience. The gameplay is solid and all the stages from the arcade version carry over. Shinobi is a classic no matter where you play it. An arcade classic that feels right at home on the Master System. With 2-player support and graphics beyond anything the NES version is capable of, Master System Double Dragon stages are far closer to the coin-op version in terms of layout. With 3 enemies on screen at once as opposed to 2 on the NES, the Master System version presents a serious challenge. Now this one's got atmosphere by the bucket load. Batman's sprite is detailed and well animated, the soundtrack is moody, and it nails the darker tone of the film. Gameplay wise, it's more straightforward than the Mega Drive version, but still satisfying, and the presentation is seriously impressive for an 8-bit machine. The level design is fantastic, with the use of Batman's grappling hook taking me back to the gameplay of Batman the movie on the Spectrum. Ambitious ports are par for the course when it comes to console gaming, and Sega putting their Mega Drive behemoth onto the Master System is right up there with the very best. Streets of Rage 2 has absolutely no right to be this good on the Master System, but it is. Sure, we lose Max Thunder as a playable character, but all the iconic stages, enemies and bosses are squashed into this 8-bit classic. It's a game that goes under the radar on Master System due to only being released in the UK, Europe, Brazil and Korea. Getting my hands on a Master System in 2025 has been a real pleasure, but I can't help but think how incredible it must have been to experience these games back in the day when they were new. Don't get me wrong, I loved my Spectrum, I wouldn't change those memories for anything. The friendships it helped form during my primary school years were something special, swapping tapes with mates, trying out new games almost every day, and picking up gems for just £2 from the bargain bin at the micro shop in Partick. It was a magical time to be a young gamer. But man, the Master System, it had everything. The hardware looks the part, sleek, sharp, futuristic, and honestly, it still looks awesome now. It just feels like a premium bit of 80s kit, like Sega were shouting, "We mean business." And to be honest, they did. While Nintendo's marketing of the NES in Europe was almost non-existent, Sega rammed home their Master System message aggressively, and by 1990, the console was the biggest selling in Europe, laying the foundations for the Mega Drive to follow, creating a whole generation of Sega guys just like us. So yeah, maybe I missed out on the Master System first time round, but I'm here now and I'm loving every minute. It's an incredible little system and I'm absolutely delighted to finally own one, even if it does feel a little bit like I'm making up for lost time. In 1991, my Spectrum and all its games were sold in the newspaper classifieds, and I was assured that the money would go towards a Sega Mega Drive, which it didn't. Instead, I got an Atari ST, and my gaming life went down an entirely different path. Since getting the Master System and seeing the quality of the software on it during the early to mid 90s, I wouldn't have minded the upgrade from the Spectrum to the Master System instead. But again, I fully believe that it was all down to the cost of the games, even more so when on the Atari ST, piracy was rife. That said, our gaming journey is what makes us the gamers we are, and my route to Sega via the arcade and the Sega Saturn is what makes me the Segaholic I am today. If you've made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. What are your Master System favourites? What are your memories? Do you remember getting your first Master System? I'd love to hear from you, so let us know in the comments below. This has been James, the Segaholic of the Sega Guys, and until next time, we'll see you on the Sega side.